Welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast with your hosts Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Divert your phone and grab a brew as Waz and Nick unpack tips, tales, secrets and stuff-ups from guests both inside and outside your trade, helping educate and inspire you to break the cycle of gut-busting and money stress and create a true trade business.
G'day, listeners.
Hello, listeners. How are you this fine Tuesday morning?
Hopefully as good as you, Coxie.
I'm putting on an act. No, I'm not. I'm excited because you're going to love this podcast episode. It is a cracker.
Yeah, now to use Nicole's lingo a bit, we loved this episode sick.
We did love it sick.
Are you trying to be all young?
It surprised me.
Are you trying to be young and stuff, Coxie?
No, I think sometimes my kids' vernacular kind of creeps into mine without really realising it. Oh, I'm throwing things across the desk now. That's how serious I am.
That's how excited you are.
I am excited. It's a cracking episode. Don't you agree?
So my Chuck Norris-y segue, yes, I do agree with you. Generally, I find that's the best option. So the Chucky Norris segue into you trying to be all young and stuff is that this bloke played for the Titans.
Yes, amongst others.
And the Cowboys. I think he did his longest stint at the Cowboys.
Did he? And the Warriors?
And the New Zealand Warriors. So he's played league at a very high level, if you consider the Australian competition to be a very high level.
We here at Tradies in Business do, most definitely.
But yeah, he's a former NRL player. And pretty good career, actually. It was funny when we connected with today's guest, Coxie. His name didn't actually ring the bell for me. And then when I actually went and stalked him online, it's like, that David Myles.
I happened to mention to the Encyclopedia of Football Knowledge that lives in my household that I was doing a podcast episode today with said guest, and he's like, and he did this and he did this and he did this. Have you ever experienced the builder's encyclopedic knowledge about football?
I know of his ability to rattle off player stats and game outcomes and everything when it comes to league.
It's just a little passion project of his, mostly through his own experience with his brother who played Super League. I think that's where it really started.
I don't know whether to be impressed or worried.
I'm worried. Each to their own, I guess.
Anyway, this is our introduction to a very good episode from a former professional sports person who had a pretty decent career in NRL. And I guess, it was kind of funny because he mentioned towards the end that his position at his field position at the Cowboys was filled by some unknown bloke who didn't really do much good at all, called Jonathan Thurston. So
the guy with the funny laugh. For our lady listeners that don't know, the guy with the funny laugh.
I'm going to leave that alone, just in case someone picks on my laugh too.
No, yours isn't like that.
Anyway, so professional footy player who went on to start a business that is, by all accounts, doing pretty damn well. And I really liked today's episode because we've had some sports people on before, and we have lots of business people come on for interviews that share their tips and their insights and their lessons, and it's all been fantastic. I particularly liked David's take on the parallels between sport and business in a way that I haven't heard done quite so well before, and probably a little differently, actually. So we talk about good coaches and good players and the relationship between the two. David shared his basically top 3 things that make for a successful business owner. The 3 attributes for a successful business owner might surprise you. Probably the number 1 thing that he thinks is probably overlooked and important when it comes to actually getting more of the right customers So it was sort of his number one marketing strategy tip. And this is from a bloke who runs a franchise with 21 locations covered in
Correct.
Australia.
Correct.
And he's never been on the tools in it. He's literally approached it as a business guy, not as a tradie, and yet it is a trade business. So I think you will get lots out of today's episode, listeners. And if you don't, then you're probably dead.
You weren't listening. Turn your ears on. Listen up, people. Enjoy. We loved our chat with David. Looking forward to chatting again with David another time. Send us some feedback. Let us know what you think. Really keen to hear about what you think and feel about what Dave has to say. Enjoy.
Alrighty, so we're joined today by Mr. David Myles, the big boss at GutterKnight, among other things that we'll find out about. Welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast, mate.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Good to have you here, David. I'm looking for your horse and your sword, or your, what do they call those sticks? Jousting sticks, whatever they are.
Yeah.
Things that you're the knight.
No, I don't. They're all hidden at the moment. They are. Yeah, I don't keep them out on display.
I would have been impressed if you turned up in
dark.
Turned up in the suit of armour or something, mate. That'd be pretty cool.
I didn't even think of that. You got me there, Coxie.
Oh, we've got all the great ideas here, mate.
We do.
So, David, you are the big boss at GutterKnight. Tell our listeners a bit about, I guess, that side of things and how that all came about. And then no doubt Coxie and I will dig up some dirt on you during the episode, mate.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, GutterKnight, this is our 8th year. It'll be 8 years in August. We started the company, myself and a business partner. How it came about was I was actually in a previous life, I was doing some business coaching, and I got our bookkeeper, long-time bookkeeper, said she had a client who's struggling. The wife lost a job at Qantas. He had a gutter guard business. Can you help him? I said, yeah, sure. So first thing I did was Google gutter guard because I had no idea what it was. Then went down and met him. So travelled down the coast and met, and within a month I thought, okay, we can do something here. Within a couple of months he'd grown his business to where he'd never been. In the third month he did the same thing, and then basically said, look, that's probably as much as I want to do. I said, that's fine. Got him out of trouble, which was great. Able to keep the house, etc. And so then I went back home and said to my wife, Jess, I'd always wanted to franchise something. I just didn't know what or why really at the time. But then I said to her, I think we can franchise this. So I rang the guy down the coast and said, look, this is what I want to do in Brizzy. Do you want to be involved? And he said, nope. I said, all right. So from there, I started GutterKnight. So that was 8 years ago in August.
Jeez, mate.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how many franchisees have you got now?
Well, we're in 21 locations now across Australia.
Gosh.
So we've covered, apart from Northern Territory, I don't think they have gutters up there. So we're not going there.
I don't need them.
And yeah, that's right. And so everywhere else we are. So last year was a big expansion year. We got to Adelaide, Canberra and Tassie. So we're in everywhere else now. So that's, yeah, it's been good growth, but been steady growth. We haven't tried to, put 10 guys on in a year. It's more controlled because we made some mistakes early on, and try to do one a quarter, 3 to 4 a year, and that of the right people, and we're happy.
Mm. So, David, did you start by jumping on the tools and learning how to install the gutter guard yourself, or did you start this from the position of a business owner?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I really didn't have a choice, Coxie, because I'm scared of heights. So I've got a confession to make. So I have a gutter guard company, but I don't get on roofs. So
Love it.
From my side
Best
of
way to do
things, we just don't mix well. So from that, it was set up for me not to be on the tools 100%, or either of us, because so really it was starting from scratch. And I guess that whole ignorance, is bliss, right? So not knowing anything about it, but coming from a business point of view, and understanding where I think any business, 80% of its sales and marketing, in my experience anyway, I found, and you can get professionals to do what they do best, and you stick to what you do best. And that's been why the model's worked well. People don't want me on their groups, that's for sure. So I stick to what I'm best at, and then you get people who are experts in their field. That's sort of how we've done it. Yeah.
It's pretty rare that we come across a trade business that's set up in that business mindset, unless somebody's bought into a franchise, of course, where the model's already there, I guess, and they're buying into that model. But to do it on your own the way that you did, it's actually really interesting to me, because I've been saying for many, many years that it can be done within the trades particularly. I feel it's something that's really missing in the trades, to come in as a business owner and then run that business as a business owner, rather than the traditional model, which is the tradie learning on the tools and then growing into becoming a business owner. And they're two vastly different, I guess, people almost. It's really fascinating to me that that's the way that you found your way through.
Yeah, and you make a good point. I think from a lot of guys I've spoken to and friends, the same thing is they've done it that way, and it is hard they find it an issue of letting go, right? Because no one can do that as good as them, and that's their mindset, which I understand. They've built something; it's their name most of the time. Whereas coming from the other way, we didn't make anywhere near as the margin, that's for sure, starting off, because we weren't doing the job. So when people generally, what I find with trades, they start off, they're doing everything. They've got to do everything just to make a few bucks. And so they get caught in that section. Then it's harder to let control go. And then, this is how we always do it, right? And then that becomes a harder mentality to change. So from that side of it, it's definitely been a benefit.
Now, David, you mentioned, I guess that, because you're scared of heights, you couldn't actually stuff it up by getting on roofs. And as you were saying that, and I know that you must love people referencing your previous career in footy, mate. But I guess I was thinking about...
We'll be kind.
Yeah. But I was thinking about, professional football player, franchise owner or co-owner. It's not dissimilar as far as everyone has a position to play, and they know how to work with the other people on the team. And it's a really cheesy analogy, but it's probably not surprising that you didn't jump on roofs and start your business the way other people do, because you've had that backing. Do you feel like that's relevant, or have you carried over some of those lessons learned from the football field to business, mate?
Yeah, look, you've hit it on the head, and it's great now upon reflection, right? 8 years down the track as to why I did do certain things. But one of the first things was what I missed about football. I didn't miss it about getting beaten up every weekend, I can assure you. But what I did miss was that camaraderie, that doing your job for your team for a specific goal. And so that was what I wanted to build the business around, is it that team environment. I don't like doing things on my own. It's not as fun. You win and you're on your own. For me, win as a team, much more fun, So, a lot of lessons from football or any sport, you can transition across to business. There's a lot, discipline, focus, goals, strategy, all of these things that I think a lot of guys don't understand. They actually know. If they have played sport, doesn't matter what level, but we've all been through it. If you have played a team sport or any sport, you can transition it, but it's about making the guys aware of, hey, you have done this before and done that, or you can apply this into your business. So from my point of view, I've taken a lot from sport and transitioned over and created what I missed. You know, that's the other thing. I think a lot of guys think, oh, this is how you do it, because they may have done an apprenticeship under somebody who that's how they did it, who did an apprenticeship under the guy who that's how they did it. So you can create something around what you want, but you need to have that plan first about what you want. I think a lot of guys don't start with that end goal in mind. What does the end look like? And then work towards it.
So, David, I want to ask about great coaches and great players. And it's something that comes up where I think there's a misconception that great players make great coaches, and to be a great coach, you have to be a great player. I think a lot of people understand that in sport they're not related, but in business there seems to be this idea that you can't actually be a great business owner if you're not a great business coach, and vice versa. Like, what are your thoughts on that, mate?
No, look, you can be whatever you want, you know, and at the end of the day, it's what you believe. So for me, no, not at all. I think you surround yourself with the right people, and be open to learning and understanding that there's more than one way to do things. I think that goes a long way. Being humble and learning. You constantly need to learn. If you want different results, you've got to do things differently, right? So there's no point sitting around the pub and listening to all the boys whinge about whatever. Well, you know, that can be changed. You can either do that or you can go and try something different. So you don't have to be the best. I mean, the best coaches, it's quite funny. The ones now at the moment, you know, they weren't necessarily good players, you know, but they just thought differently to others, you know, and they thought about the game differently, and they're good at leadership and man management. I mean, you've got coaches that are good at getting the best out of players. But they mightn't be as strategic. So what they do is they surround themselves with assistant coaches who are just bloody football nerds and can do that strategy side of it. So they come up with that, and then they stick to their strength, and that's leading the players. So I think it's the same in business. No, you don't have to be a bloody business coach. That's for sure. You know, 100%. No. And what is that anyway? You know, like that's one thing. Sorry.
No, we've got a bit of good old Australian internet lag going on, David, surprisingly. But no, there's the idea, I think, with a lot of trade business owners that they should only take advice from, you know, the Tony Robbins or the Warren Buffetts or the Kerwin Rays, you know, whoever the big names are. But you can get so much fantastic feedback from your peers, you know, from your fellow business owners that have just made the same stuff ups and discovered, probably through pain, better ways to do things. You don't have to go find the big sparkly names on Facebook. And I think it's a common misconception that a lot of trade business owners have.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've got an example of that. We have a conference every year, and we get all the guys in from around the country, and we get, we speak and whatnot. And the predominant feedback from that is what they learn is the most is when they're chatting together in their own little groups. You know, so you can get whoever the heck you want to come and talk, but they get the most feedback from talking to each other. What do you hear? What about this? What about that? So it's frustrating from my point of view as that is. It's great. So we just expand that model, okay, and learn from each other. It's a huge thing. And I think a lot of guys, they might be scared to ask, you know, we've all have egos to a point, and maybe they don't want to be seen as not knowing something, when in fact you'll find that guys who are winning in a particular area are more than happy to say, hey, this is what I do. I think that community is really underestimated, like you said, Warwick. Yeah,
it's the C word, mate, community. So how have you done that with GutterKnight, David? I mean, you've mentioned conference and stuff like that. How have you sort of brought that and some of that footy culture that or the positive footy culture that you talked about earlier, into your organisation?
Okay, so what we do is we get around to the guys. What we've tried to do, we've got a Facebook page, just a private one, so things get posted on there sort of a couple of times a week, not just on business, but there might be mindset things. There might be some books or some podcasts people might be listening to, and then it could be, oh, this is how I did this particular job, or this is what I'm finding in the industry. So we've created that little community, and banter, of course. Like, that's the best part of it, especially at the moment. I think the Broncos got a high last night, so the New South Wales guys are having some fun with that. So that's a real important part, and then I'm a bit old school with a few things. So we do, when we get together, whoever wants to does have a few beers, So, and I think that drops people's guards and they get to know each other on a bit of a deeper level. So what I've tried to build is that team environment as much as you can when you're in 20 locations around the country. So I think it's really important. They call each other, and email, text to see, hey, this is what I'm doing. What are you doing here, etc.
I think it's something that, if I just reference back to what we do, we'd missed that part of what we were creating. We had a great community, but we probably fell down on some of that networking, that social aspect, and encouraged our members to get together individually. Until the good old Rona came along, and suddenly we're like, well, we can no longer catch up with these people in the flesh. We're going to have to do it online, and introduce something as simple as Friday afternoon drinks, 4:00 every Friday for our members. We jump online like we are now on a Zoom call, and we all have some drinks together. And that has totally changed the conversations we're having in our membership groups. It means that people are getting to know each other on a social level, which immediately means they're more connected and they're more likely to put their hand up and say, I need help, or reach out and say, how did you do this? Can you help me with that? So that's been a great positive reflection and change for us. I'm interested to hear, though, David, as a non-tradie coming into running a trade business, what kind of stumbling blocks did you find along the way? And I feel that this is particularly interesting for somebody like myself who came into running a construction business. I had no experience in construction. And I wonder if a lot of the things we sort of fell into were very similar for that reason.
Yeah. Well, look, I think the first one was, what do you do? How do you do it? That was for me. I've never done it. I didn't know what it was until I got on Google. So I learned a little bit through the guy I was helping with his business. But so I had to find somebody who knew what to do. And the first guy I found sort of knew what to do. So it was a lot of bumbling. I didn't know how to charge. I didn't know how to the ins and outs of the installation. So there was definitely some stumbling blocks and skinning of the knees. I had to sort of fight the straight away section of, once the other, I guess, competitors out there found out that I wasn't a tradie, that they would be using that as, oh, he doesn't even do the job.
Yes.
So once I heard that feedback a couple of times from clients, oh, do you do the work, or have you ever done this type of thing? I was like, okay, well, you got a couple of ways you can go. But for me, I just prefer the honest and say, just like I said to you at the start, is no, I don't do it. You don't want me to do it. That is not what I'm good at. I've got guys who are experts that do that. I do this side of the business. I run this side. And that's what works, and you'll get a better result for it. So there was definitely some skinning in the knees and pain early, and we also kept it simple. That's probably another key that I think guys get overcomplicate things. I think once complexity, it just slows everything down and makes it a lot harder. So we just do gutter guard. Okay. So we dabbled. So here's another mistake. People say, oh, do you do gutters? Yeah. So then I'd, try to work that out. But what was happening, it was just getting too complex, to this. It was just not our model. So we just made that decision of we'll find good people that we will refer work to, that we're comfortable to do so, and know that they will provide the same service and quality that we provide in all the different roofing aspects. And we just stick to GutterKnight. So from that point of view, we've been able to streamline our processes, our systems, and that was what that first 2 years was of us running it as a pilot before we went to down the franchise route. So we had everything down pat before we did that. But it was a process. It was definitely a couple of years, and it was a bigger process than I had actually thought it was going to be. But it was fun. Definitely learned a lot.
There's a lot of lessons to learn, that's for sure. I just want to take you back to something you just referred to there, because we actually just came off a call with a client not 5 minutes before we started this interview, in which we were recommending exactly what you were just saying, establishing some long-lasting relationships in the trades where you're able to refer to one another. It's such a great business model to simplify and do the thing that you do best, and then find some like-minded partners that you can refer work onto who do what they do best and have the same sort of mindset about how to service a client, so that you're guaranteeing a result in the end. Those networking opportunities are sometimes hard to find, because it can, like everyone, we can go through a few tradies to find somebody that sits well with our business model and how we work. How important was that to your business to get that referral back to you for what you were doing?
Yeah, look, that's a really good question, and something that's quite relevant right now that I've found, because early on we were heavily geared towards Google. Like 98% of our work was from Google, and which we thought was cool, because we got to number one pretty quickly, which was great. And then got comfortable. Then what happened? The people we had doing our SEO, etc., did something that Google didn't like, and gave us a smack, and we ended up on page 3. So you may as well not even have a website. So the business went from flying along, good growth, to bang, costing 5, 6, 7 grand a day for us in lost revenue. It was like, holy shit moment. So that was, while we did that, it was like, okay, while we sorted that, how else we get business? And first thing was, well, alliance partners. So who else has the same client as us but is a non-competitor? So for us, for example, roofers, gutter guys, builders, etc., along that. So I had a goal of getting our lead generation down from 98% to 50% from online and offline strategy. So a variety of each. So that was quite a big wake-up call. And what I think has happened there, we got that, 6 or so years ago. So what that's allowed us to do is build this wide base of referral partners that both refer to us, but also we do to them. So it has helped us through this period, through this whole Corona thing. We are getting work from places for free because of the relationship we've built over the last few years. So for us, and I think that's what's happened to a lot of trades mates even that I have, who rely on one builder, 2 builders, for example. I think those are the guys that are a little bit concerning at the moment, because of the numbers of the builds that are going to drop. They're talking sort of potentially 50%. I know that they did that, proposed that new grant yesterday, so hopefully that helps. But if you've got one builder you work for and his new ones drop by 50%, well, that's going to flow onto you. So, and a lot of the guys work on 8, 10, 12 weeks of scheduling, right? So that might not even hit them yet. So I think you're 100% right. Strategic part or alliances are a way to secure your business for leads, even when one thing stops, well, you've still got these other ones. So it gives you it gives you a lot of security in your business, and it's something that's underused and underutilized, I believe. And I don't know why. I don't know why, but it's it's something that I definitely would recommend to anybody listening to get a few alliance partners and work together and help each other's business.
Okay. Yes, we're interrupting.
We're good interrupters.
We're interrupting
Hello,
ourselves. That's like
That feels uncomfortable, actually. I don't like that.
ninja level interruption skills. G'day, listener. So, sorry to bust into your episode, but we have a really important announcement, Coxie.
We do. Are you ready? I want to do some whoop, 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 or something like that to make everybody stop and think, what on earth is she carrying on about now? I need to listen.
All right, so we just want to let you know that the trade desk is still free, okay? It's free. The code for you to get it for free is Tradies for Tradies. That's the number 4. Now, what the hell is the trade desk? Well, we did an episode about this recently, I think on my Queen's birthday holiday, Coxie, where we ran through what the trade desk is and all the other things that we do. So go back and find that one. But basically, the trade desk is a big box of tools and a set of instructions on how to use them, and me and Coxie giving you pro tips on how to use those same tools, plus a bunch of other people who have used those same tools to get amazing results in their trade businesses, teaching you how to suck less at business. And essentially, it's free at the moment. After that, it's $49 a month, so it's cheap as dirt. It'll change the way you run your business. It's what it's aimed to do, is change the way you're doing things. It doesn't require a hell of a lot of time. It doesn't require a hell of a lot of money. But it's a really simple way for you to change the way you're running your trade business. So if you're not totally happy with how your business is running at the moment, check out the trade desk. Just go to www.tradiesinbusiness.com.au/trade desk and you'll find out more about it there. There's a cheesy video that we hate explaining it. And
We do.
And you can click the button, and when you get to the coupon question, put in the code Tradies for your first month free.
So if you're looking for a flat pack solution to your trade business woes, come and find us.
Oh my gosh, that was so cheesy.
You've been listening to the Tradies in Business podcast with Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Find out more about today's guest, tools for your trade business, and other cool stuff at tradiesinbusiness.com.au.
David, what are some of the, I guess, like working with franchisees, you'd see a variety of different people getting results in their business that perhaps they're breaking molds a little bit. You know, again, if I go back to something I was talking about earlier, which is some of the misconceptions that people have about business and succeeding in business, we think there's a particular type of person that is cut out for business. And Nicole and I hear people say, "Oh, I just don't know if I'm cut out to be a business owner." Is there a mold or a standard kind of person, mate, or what's your experience with the sort of people who do get results?
Well, that's a really good question too. I think that for us, we have got a very, very mixed background. We've got sports people, we've got ex-sports people, we've got I think we nearly cover all the codes now. We just got a soccer guy on. So I think we don't have rugby. That's it. We've got AFL league and soccer now. Then we've also got corporate backgrounds. We've also got photographers, council workers, and then we've even got a couple of trades. Now, the guys, if you look at the leaderboard as such, who are the guys doing the best? If you look at what they've got in common, is they are, one, they know what they want. You know, that's a good place to start. 2, they are coachable. And 3, that they're willing to learn now and follow a system. Because what will happen? The guys at the top 30% of our guys who are just braining it. They consistently do that. Then we've got the body, the 40, 50% that are doing okay. They have some really good months and then some okay months. Really good. So, and that I think a lot of the time in trade as well they'll have a couple of good months and then, where's the work for the next job? So that side of things. And then there's the bottom ones that sort of aren't quite committing 100% into what they are, not following the system, not doing what they can or could be for the business. So, but it's a long-winded answer, sorry, Warwick. But I think again, it'll just come down to the type of person that they are they willing to do those 3 or 4 things consistently? That's the other thing. We all do it. I mean, I'm guilty of it too, mate. I get a smack over the head by mentors myself going, what are you doing? Sometimes because you get comfortable, right? And then you drop off on the things that got you there. And then it's like, so you need that little wake up. And I call them 1%ers. And I stole that from a coach of ours back when I was at the Cowboys, and he used to refer to them all the time. They're the little things that, say, the crowd doesn't see you do, but your teammates do. And they understand that those are little things. You do those consistent little 1% efforts. For example, one of them for us is when a guy send a proposal off for the gutter guard, you send a text message straight away letting them know. Now that sounds like, oh yeah, I'll do that sometimes, but it might end up in their spam, right? So, and you'll only get, if they're getting 3 quotes, but they get 2 and then ours didn't turn up, well, that's just typical bloody trade, right?
Yep.
So it's sending a text letting them know you've done it. Oh, I haven't got it. Oh, hang on. Oh, gee, I got your email wrong, or is it in your spam? Oh, there it is. So it's a 1%er. It might only happen 1 every 10 times that it doesn't get through, but still 10% of the time, right? So those little things, and those are the key that I find for the guys with the bigger businesses, not just with ours, but out there in whatever industry, is they do those little things consistently every day. Boring as shit they can be, but they get results. Yeah.
So what about you personally, David? What are some of your 1%ers, mate?
Well, 1% for me, the older I've gotten, the wiser you get, the more grays, is I've found that, and I buy into that, the more structure you have, the more freedom you have. Now, you think about that, it doesn't really make sense. However, for me, it does. It does work, and I do allocate time every week to what's important to me. So we've got young kids. So one of the goals of mine is not to miss anything at school. Okay, so that, whether that's parade or when they get a award and things like that. So for me, a 1%er is planning my week on a Sunday based around what that is important for me to do that week. Another one is reflection, and what I ask myself, what worked well, what didn't work well, where can I improve every month? I go through. Okay, that's another 1%er. That's the business side. Work, training, health-wise, for me, if I don't put my shoes out and my clothes out the night before, geez, it's hard to get up. So that's a little 1%er as well. Now it's colder. I'll even sleep in the pants I'm going to wear in the morning. So that's a 1%er for me, especially now that it is cold and dark at 5 a.m. So yeah, there's a few that off the top of my head, Warwick.
No, that's awesome, mate. Just on that same subject, David, physical training, mental training, like non-business related habits, how much do they relate to success and results in business?
Well, the more success that we are having, I now understand it is more to do with that than actually what I'm doing 9 to 5 as such. So for me, training becomes, if I miss, I only train 3 times a week, and the other days I just do some stretching at home. But if I don't do that day, I will notice the next day, or my wife will notice, what the hell's wrong with you? So it's, for me, that's a really good release. It gets me away. I'm an early riser, so I can go do this, spend the time with a couple of mates for that hour, come home, and the kids aren't even awake yet. So I get an hour and a half to myself. That's totally non-relate, away from your phone, away from problems and whatnot, and spend a bit of guy time. And then it's hugely important. The same as diet-wise. I'll know, if you have too many beers too often, that affects my mental health as well. I like to write things. I've found, and this is from someone who I got through year 12, through the end of the year, that the English teacher thought I left school halfway through. So it was never something that I ever thought I would do. But I find it gives me clarity. So writing to me gives me clarity. It makes you think. So those are the things that help me mental wise. Making sure that I read. I do 20 minutes a day. It's not a lot, but I think everyone can commit to that. If I said I started off with I'm going to read a book a month, but for me, I just never hit that goal. I may do that now. I don't really know, but sometimes I have to read a page 5 times for it to sink in. So for me to say that's my goal, one a month, it wasn't working. Whereas I changed that to a process goal of 20 minutes a day, and I can do that. Yep. Those all help. That's for mental clarity, and also to learn. I don't know anywhere near enough as what I want to know. That's for sure. I'm still bumbling through things, especially the bigger we get. We have to change systems that I've never even heard of. So people say, "Oh, you need this." Well, what's that? And the technology side of things, like, my wife, she still sort of jumps at me. I'm looking at 3 whiteboards over here because I write stuff down, and whereas that's double, triple handling, and that drives her nuts. So, but I see it, I like it, but it's now it's taken me months and months to the point where now I've agreed, okay, we'll get an IT guy in and let's smooth this up a bit. And the work he's doing is unreal. So for me, it's like, oh wow. So, they say people don't like change. I suppose I'm sort of one of them in that regard. But I think if you're not evolving and changing, you're going to get left behind. And I see us as a leader in the industry, and I didn't want to be the best one. The biggest one. Didn't want to be the biggest. However, we want to be the premier GutterKnight company where we were the go-to guys. And what's happening, which is quite interesting, is because of our focus of being the premier, the best service and quality and materials, etc., we're going to organically become the biggest, which I think is pretty funny in a way when you look at it that way. So whether that would have happened if the sole focus was I want to be the biggest one, whether that would have happened, I don't know. But it's pretty cool how that's happening.
I like how you made the differentiation, David, between a goal and a process goal. With book a month versus 20 minutes a day. And the reality is, if you read 20 minutes a day, even if you do have to do the same page 4 times, mate, you'll get to the book a month. You'll probably smash the book a month, right? And I feel like a lot of blokes especially get stuck on that. We did an episode last week about one of our mastermind sessions that we call a drawing board, where one of our members is really stuck, but it's on something super simple that's really blocking growth in the business and real change in the business, because I think he's just gotten into a really challenging headspace around letting go of the blockage itself. How do you manage that yourself or with your franchisees or the team that's around you? Like when someone gets stuck on something like that, it's like book a month, I'm never going to be able to do that, and so there's that inaction because they're so buried under the overwhelm. What are some of your tips on how to manage that, mate?
Yeah, I always go back to that keep it simple thing. I think I buy into that. If you can't explain it to a 10-year-old, you're doing it wrong. So I try to break things down and look at them from all different angles, and just do that little bite-size progress, because I think a lot of the time it comes down to confidence. and we all lack confidence sometimes, right? Especially when we are in a growth period because we're just winging it, or there is something that you should do, but there is that blockage. I find a lot of the time it is confidence. So how do you improve your confidence? Well, if you break those things down into little bite-sized chunks, it might it might be something that minute, doesn't seem to make a difference today. However, if you do it again tomorrow and the next day, you're stacking it on. But what you're importantly doing is you're committing to yourself, I'm going to do that. I can do that today. And you do that. So what you're doing is you're keeping a promise to yourself. And over time, if you keep in little promises to yourself, you start getting more confident. And I think that process for me helps for the guys. And it's only because for the guys, that's because of what I do, and I'm fully authentic and humble to the guys and say, look, I don't know, but this is what I do. Let's try that. I don't profess to have all the answers, that's for sure. Especially when there are so many different personalities, I tend to try. My leadership style is more about, well, this is what I do. You're more than welcome to do that. Let's do it that way. So I don't know if that sort of answers your question, Warwick, but that's what I've found helps with guys, and because a lot of the time we want to be macho men, right? When really we're just little kids, if we're honest, and we're all mummy's boys. So I think first of all, admitting that, and it's okay not to know, or it's okay to be scared to do something. If you're not scared, it means you're not challenging yourself. And if you're in your comfort zone, well, that's death to me. But
We've got to get rid of this macho bullshit, really. It's as simple as that. And to have somebody like yourself who's prepared to put your hand up and say, yeah, well, no, that's not working. This is what I can do to move forward, helps so many other people. And with so many of the clients that we're dealing with at the moment, it's the ego that's gotten in the way of where they want to be, and they've forgotten where they want to get, and they've forgotten the goals that they had when they started out in business, because ego became the thing that they were chasing. So to hear more people like yourself put their hand up and say, you know what, sometimes I'm scared, or I don't feel confident, or it's not okay, and I just don't know what I'm doing. That's reality. That's real. And I feel for far too long, gentlemen in particular have been pushed into a corner where it's not okay to say those things. We have to be macho, we have to be cool, and we have to be seen to know. And it's actually fine not to know. We're all here to learn. We're all here to grow. The best football players don't happen overnight. They spend years and years and years training. It should be the same in your trade, whether you are the tradie or the apprentice or the business owner, regardless of your position. The mentality should be the same. We're there to learn and grow within that process, rather than feeling like we have to have all the answers and know what we're doing straight up, because we just don't. It's a process.
Yeah, and I think people understand that. Well, in my experience anyway, I find that authenticity overrides all of that. Where if you genuinely go, Warwick, I don't even have a clue how to answer your question, mate. Sorry. As opposed to me trying to bullshit my way through something. I think that in itself is endearing to the other people, because you're giving off that energy of you being authentic, and you don't know. And and I think that's becoming, well, hoping it is. I think there's a turning anyway, where I know with our we got three boys, I know that they don't really have a problem with admitting they don't know something, and I'm hoping that sort of goes through. But it is something I would love to see changed, because there is a lot of pressure on men and women, but to seem to be we all want to be the provider, we want to be the good husband, that alpha or whatever. But it's also okay to admit that, well, I need some help to be that. And I think if you're around the right people, if you said to your mates, look, I'm struggling, I don't even know, and they went, well, you're an idiot, well, you got the wrong mates, right? That's something that you're in the wrong crowd. So I think by the more communication we can have and talk about, I think it's brave to admit that you don't know, or you are scared. I think that's brave, personally. And I appreciate it when anyone says those things to me.
Well, I know, I know that as we are, David, you're passionate about mental health, and I guess it sometimes seems like a bit of a gratuitous topic, and I also don't think we can talk about it too much, particularly given the corona fallout, I suppose, with mental health, and it doesn't seem to be getting a lot of coverage, certainly not as much as it needs and deserves. What's your take on, I guess, particularly men's mental health? It's kind of crap in my eyes that I have allowed myself to feel bad talking about just men's mental health. I'm a man. I think that's something I'm very passionate about. Of course, I've had my own personal experience with it. I know you're involved in an organisation, mate, and feel free to talk about that. But what's sort of been some of your experiences, and why are you passionate about that area of health?
Well, I guess the short story of why is through family. Okay, so unfortunately we've been touched by it, my own family and my wife's family. So that brought an awareness around the severity of it, and that it can happen to anybody. So that was probably the first sort of, wow, okay, what's going on here? You're from the same environment, you live in the same house. Why is this happening? So for me, I think that a lot of the things out there are fantastic. So your Black Dogs, everything, they're great organisations. However, I think what the issue is, most of them are treatment models. Okay, so that's when you're broken. So if let's use a sporting analogy. Because that's probably the only one I can think of. If you're
Can't imagine
coaching a team, and you're coaching a team, someone pulls their hamstring, you go, okay, go see the physio. Next day, 2 more pull their hamstring. Go, oh, okay. Next day, another one. You go, okay, hold up, what's going on here? You got to start looking at, well, we don't just go send them to get treatment. There's obviously something going on. So what are we doing wrong? So what do we need to do before it gets broken? So in a hamstring analogy, you need to do more stretching. You need to do some core work. You need to do some balance work. You need to do some whatever work. So you're getting that preventative side of things. So I think right now, I don't know the exact numbers, but the $8 odd billion that goes into mental health, what 90% of it is in treatment. I just don't think you get better from treating it. Like, yes, it's important, and we want treatment 100%, but where are we at before that? So I think that's where a lot of the space can go in, and for me, a lot of it is emotions. Again, oh shit, don't talk about bloody emotions, So for men, and emotions that we get, and everybody gets, there's a space where you're supposed to be, right? You're just supposed to feel, pretty cool. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. You're not supposed to be ecstatic all the time and walk around and go, yeah, how good's life? You think throw them in the loony bin. But it's the same as with, if you're down there, you're not supposed to be depressed and sad all the time, right? Now, that's not saying that, someone passes away or whatever. Well, yeah, you're supposed to be sad, right? It shows you care. We have those emotions for a reason, but the thing is you're not supposed to stay there. You're not supposed to stay in that spot. So what that people need is strategies. How do we get back to where we're supposed to be? But first of all, that, for example, is, and that doesn't happen overnight. So that depression, that doesn't happen overnight. Like, it's a process, right? You just dropping through the various emotions, anxiety, etc., till you're down in that sort of hole where you feel like you can't get out. So it's first of all is having the awareness. How are you supposed to feel? Okay, I know. Remember back at school, they tell you don't do this, don't do that, don't feel that way, don't feel. Okay, well, that's what I don't want to be. Well, what do I want to feel like? And starting to get, well, what is that? Okay, well, yeah, I want to feel happy, content. Yeah, I want to feel like I'm going forward. So it's first of all having the awareness of how you're supposed to feel. And then if you're not feeling that way, oh, how come? Oh, because this happened, Oh, okay. All right, well, I've been here for a couple of days. How do I get back up there? So that's where I think the gap is. It's getting everyone awareness about how you're supposed to feel, and then that these range of emotions are normal. But then having a process involved to get yourself back to where you want to be, and it's an ongoing thing. At the moment, that the whole model of you take these pills every day, it's got a place for people with acute issues, no doubt about it. But for the majority of us, I don't know if that's the right answer all the time. It might be for a certain amount of time, but not forever. Come on, who wants to take a little white pill forever? I think that having an education process around that's where I reckon the gap is, Warwick, and that's sort of where organisation that I'm involved with an ex-coach, that's where we sort of focus on.
Tell us a bit more about that, David. You've mentioned it. I'm sure our listeners would like to hear a bit more about the organisation you are involved in, mate.
Yeah, so basically it's a organisation that was built around experiences. So in around getting awareness in regards to, again, how you're supposed to feel, but also making it a lot more fun. So, and we find that anything, the way you want to remember something is if you put an emotion with it. So you can sit there and listen to somebody and have no emotion involved. You retain next to nothing. But you can. I'm sure you can remember. You guys probably, when Princess Diana. I don't know how old your listeners are, but remember when she died? Where were you? Like, I can go bang. I can remember where I was. Right? That's. I don't know why she just popped in my head just quietly, but anyway, there's an emotion involved in that. Okay, so but you'll remember that forever. So that's what we try to do, is create an experience around the messages, and that's what we find gets the better results with people, and then having a strategy and system in place that they can refer to when things aren't going so well. And these are things that I would love to see in schools, but I think we're a long way off that at the moment. But I think the more awareness, if we can come at it from the top down and below with our kids, next generation, doing it from home, then I think we'll get there eventually.
I do think there's an element of it creeping into the schools. Speaking from my own experience, I've got I actually haven't seen it in my girls' schools. They both go to single-sex schools, the girls and the boys.
Yep.
But the boys, through their schooling, I think they've done actually a pretty great job of starting to put some of these, I guess, awarenesses in place. So I do think we're starting to get there. It's just a very slow process. And I do hope that, the more people like yourself that come out and talk about this, or our continued conversations with the tradies, we hope that through those conversations and some of this, I guess, awarenesses, but also some getting people educated around what this looks like, because we tend to only talk about the acute state. We don't talk about the prevention. We don't talk about, as you were referencing, the healthy range, how actually normal that is, because we've always spoken so acutely around it. Many of us fall into the trap of feeling that, okay, there must be something wrong with me because I've felt sad for the last couple of days. In actual fact, it's pretty normal to feel sad for a period of time if there's a reason to. If there's no reason to, and you're not feeling any better, and you don't have the strategies or the resources to pull yourself out of that, different story. So these kind of continual conversations around these points just bring that awareness to a broader field, I guess, so that we can then help educate that next generation. Again, I do feel that there is some stuff going on at schools, just not yet nearly enough. It almost needs to be a subject at school, doesn't it? Preparing yourself for life.
Oh, gosh. Don't get me started on school. Yeah, what they should be teaching them. Jeez. But, no, totally agree. Yeah, yep.
David, I reckon we could probably do a 3-hour episode with you, mate, but...
No, I just looked at the time. I thought, geez, it's an hour
I know, but
sorry,
I'm
guys,
conscious of
waffled on.
our listeners'
No, not at
attention
all.
spans, and a lot of men out there who probably struggle to focus for more than 3.5 minutes. So, g'day, blokes. I'm going to ask my well-known question for any long-term listeners, and that is, if you had 1,000 tradies in a room, what's one piece of advice you would like to leave them with?
Oh, that's a great question. I should have listened more to your podcast right before I got on. I could have had an answer.
You give better answers when you're unprepared.
Okay. Well, I think the first thing just pops into my mind there would be probably just based on what you said, Coxie, in regards to working together. Find a group of non-competing businesses with the same target market and build relationships, guys, and work together. Sometimes you'll find you give 5, 10 referrals and you don't get some back. Don't focus on what you're going to get. If you go in with a giving attitude, it'll come back to you. You know, it's reap what you sow, right? So you got to give first. You can't go in with a take mentality. So I think that's probably a big one for trades. I think if everyone mastered that, geez, you imagine everyone's business. You know, you imagine if you had those 1,000 people's businesses, how good they'd be. You know, you just become the go-to guy in your space, and man, that's very powerful and great place to build a business from.
Great
How's
tip.
that?
See,
Is that all right?
how good was that? And you were unprepared.
There you go, mate. You perform better on the fly. So
thank you.
I'm going to be cheeky and ask a follow-up question, Coxie. Mate, given your sporting career, and for anybody who doesn't know about your sporting career, we'll have to dig some dirt or get some cheesy old photos or something, mate. But I wanted to ask, mate, what's the biggest thing from your sporting career that's impacted your life?
Or do you know what it is? It's the people I met. So for me, the people that I had access to, that's been the biggest thing. And because, you know, like it just the way it is, it was easy. You had this group of men and women around the club, and a lot of them were really successful in business. And that, to me, that's a crucial point for my development since. I've still got mentors from when I was at the Cowboys. So I left in 2005. They bought a fella called Jonathan Thurston. I don't know if you heard of him, but he took my position. So I'm still in touch, and from that network that I've got there, it's expanded to others. So, you know, in my phone book, I've got some pretty big hitters that I can call on. So that for me has been the biggest takeaway. And from that, I've developed a system around putting my own little board of directors together and experts in the field that I believe are. So, you know, I've got a guy I call on for my health, you know, a guy I call on for wealth, for business, leadership, and parenthood. One of my things, I just want to be the best dad and husband I can be. And so I've got a guy who I would never ask about business to, but geez, anything to do with being a dad or husband, he's a gun, you know? So I think, and that all stems from that takeaway from footy, from sport and having those people around you. So I reckon that's been the biggest impact or takeaway from football for me. Yep.
Love it. That was completely unplanned, mate. And I'm glad I asked the question.
Yeah, me too.
Cool.
Awesome, mate. Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast, David. Like I said, I reckon we could probably knock out a 3-hour episode. So perhaps you'll be on our list of alliances that we want to chat to, mate. If listeners want to find out more about your organisation, GutterKnight, obviously, best place for people to do that. What is it?
Just online. I mean, the website's gutterknight.com.au. Instagram's just gutter_night. Look, I think we're in a heap of other places, mate. But or you know, just find me on LinkedIn and reach out. You know, I'm more than happy to help where I can. And you know, I like to hopefully think that I can give a bit of value to people. So if they want to reach out and say good day, go for it.
Awesome. Thanks, David. It's been great to have you on the show.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
You've been listening to the Tradies in Business podcast with Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Find out more about today's guest, tools for your trade business, and other cool stuff at tradiesinbusiness.com.au.